So the approach that we're sort of looking at today, because there are we got another participant. Amanda's coming in. Because there's so few of us, and because we were hoping to be riding the until life changed. This was supposed to take place out in the trails to give people a bit of an introduction. I was sort of, I put together a couple of video clips. Actually, Travis, who's part of the exec, put together a couple little clips that we sort of ran for our AGM earlier this month. I thought might be an easy way of just giving a little bit of intro and some photos of what's out there. And I'm not sure if the other folks on the line are familiar with our trails, but they're just north of the city. If you follow the rec trail to the end where it hits Victoria Road, cross Victoria Road, and you basically hit the start of our trails. So first thing I'm going to show is just a clip that Travis put together for AGM. It was basically as we're waiting for people to come on or into the AGM, he put together this little bit of a montage. So I'm just going to run that again just to give you a little bit of a feel for what's happening. And I just need to go share screen. Sorry. Can you guys see that okay?
Nope.
No?
I don't see it, Don. I thought I was the only one.
All right.
Oh, there we go. Started screen sharing. I didn't put music with this, huh?
For some reason, there is music going, but sometimes it doesn't always share audio.
I couldn't remember if I put music with it or not. That's okay. The pictures are working. That's our list of corporate sponsors. We just added one more this week. 2 more.
It's better with the sound. I just can't figure out how to share the sound for the reason it's not coming up.
I think it was before you clicked share, there was an option to share audio as well.
Oh.
Yeah, that you would have to check off.
Maybe hum a few bars, Don, and we can imagine it.
All right, so that's just a little, just a bit of an intro. Now that I sort of get this back. So for Julie and Amanda, since we have such a small little group, I was wondering if there's any questions you two might have about the club that we could address quickly or directly.
I know that the trails were closed last fall. What work was done during that time?
So last fall or 2 falls ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was 2 falls ago and then well into the spring.
Okay.
Yeah, and when they're closed, basically it was the GRCA has been going through forestry work across all their properties. I believe it's across all their properties. So, with our trail, so basically what they did is they sort of went through swaths and just cutting down, I think it's all white pine out there, with the idea of trying to diversify that forest. When they planted that forest in, I think it was the 60s or early 70s, just because they, so much property that was sort of, stripped down for farming back in the day. They reforested it in a way that they could, try and get trees in there as quickly as possible. But now they're trying to go back and clear out some of the areas so they can get some more ground cover to grow, and also introduce more native tree species, just to, again, better diversify the forest and create better living conditions for not only, birds, but, ground cover for some animals to be able to cross through the forest without being easy prey to some of the birds hanging out up top. But it did throw it, and it came as a bit of a surprise to us. It caused, it shut down our trails for the winter time, because we also groom trails for winter use. Now that fat biking has become so popular, but it did sort of, it was a bit of pain. And the start of last year meant a lot of work on, whether or not it's just the executive members or the trail crew members and other club members, just getting those trails open. I was pretty happy with how it, how fast we could get the trails open, given how much work was done out there.
There's a few sections of the GORBA trails that are really quite, like, really, really wet and muddy.
Yes.
Can you guys sort of like do anything to sort of alleviate that at all?
There's a couple areas that, one area that I think Travis actually posted up some signage or some photos about the one trail being closed for until it dries out. And it was a problem last year. And I don't know if when they did some of the forestry work, there's a lot of rutting that was created by the tires. It probably takes a little bit for those tire, grooves to sort of fill in. I don't know if it changed the direction of water flow off the one hill, but there's the one trail. It's just basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through and reroute that, because we just can't,
we're working, Joel is the person who's in charge of our trail crew, and he's got an active plan to reroute all the major wet areas so that we won't be riding through them immediately after rain or in springtime. And we are going to build a few more boardwalks this season. Just putting together a plan how to best do that to avoid exorbitant costs. Yeah, we have targeted those wet areas, and the plan is to go around them or go through them in a way that we're not creating ruts and bogs.
Thank you.
Yeah, and even when we start looking at boardwalks, like some of those things come into play. Those also get approved by the GRCA. We work with the GRCA pretty tightly on any sort of trail modifications, and unless it's like very minor stuff, any major modifications or building anything that's building anything that's a structure, just because those are things that introduces something else that we need to make sure that we're maintaining properly, so it doesn't become hazardous. If it's, sometimes, wood will obviously rot the longer it sits out there, and the longer it sits out in wet areas. So if those were the primary questions,
Well, I'll ask.
all right.
I came on. I'm not really new to Guelph, but I have only like really walked through the GORBA trail, and I've always been interested in wanting to like take my bike out there. I wouldn't say I'm great at the mountain biking, but I have done a couple races and stuff like that. And so I guess I'm just a little intimidated because I've not really, I don't really know the route that well, and don't know how to read this properly. And I'm intimidated by just getting lost and going out by myself. And I know I can join a group and stuff like that, but I guess the thing is I wanted to learn more about, for first timers that want to take a stroll around there, like how do I navigate my way through and understand and make sure that I come out the other side?
I can give you a couple of pointers.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah. So most people come in off of Victoria Road.
Yep.
And if you have a compass or a smartphone that you can use as a reference your first couple of times when you're out there, basically, our trails form a T. It's not a perfect T at right angles, but basically, if you're heading towards the lake from Victoria Road, you're heading east. So we have a group of trails that basically run east-west between Victoria Road up to Guelph Lake. And and of course the trails wind around a lot, and you get spun around, so you're not quite sure what direction you're going.
Yeah.
When you enter that group of trails, that east-west tract of trails heading towards Guelph Lake, you're going to notice you're going slightly uphill towards the lake. So if you're going uphill, you're probably going towards the lake. And then the other thing you can do is just, like I said, if you have a compass or a smartphone, take note of what direction you're going, or take note of where the sun is when you enter the trails. And if you keep the sun on the same side, you'll either end up back at Victoria Road, or you'll end up at Guelph Lake. Then once you're at Guelph Lake, we have a group of trails that more or less go, I guess I got that a little bit wrong. I'm sorry. Going in towards Guelph Lake, it's a little bit more north-south, and then a little bit more east-west when you're running along the side of Guelph Lake. So if you just keep in mind that the trails are like a T, when you get to Guelph Lake, you can make the decision that you want to go back to Victoria Road on one leg of that T, or you can run alongside the lake on the other member of that T.
And then come back up Victoria Way that way.
Yes. So if you're following along Guelph Lake, you'll either end up at Conservation Drive, or you'll end up at Cane Hill Drive, which is a small road with a few houses on it that connects to Highway 124 and pretty much Watson Road. So if you're running along that group of trails, just make note of which side the lake is which of your sides the lake is on, and you're either heading towards Highway 124 or you're heading back towards the Conservation Drive and the proper conservation area of Guelph Lake. Just keep that in mind. It's like a T. Yeah, and there are two ridges that really go into that our trails go on in Guelph Lake, and those ridges form that T. The one ridge is the shoreline, mostly man-made, but the shoreline of Guelph Lake, and then there's another ridge that comes down into the forest, parallel to the trail you take when you're coming from Guelph or from Victoria Road to Guelph Lake. As you're heading from Victoria Road to Guelph Lake, there's a ridge that's off to your right-hand side. Those two ridges form that T. So if you're in there and you start to notice you're going uphill, again, take note of your orientation. If you follow those ridges, they intersect at Guelph Lake, and you'll figure out what leg of that T that you're on. Are you heading to Victoria and Guelph Lake, or are you heading to Cane Hill Drive and Conservation Drive? That's it. What I always tell people, if you're lost, try going uphill, because you'll end up, if you just keep going up and up, you'll end up at Guelph Lake.
Okay. That's helpful.
Then
that is very helpful.
Yeah.
Good way to look at it.
Yeah, I've been riding those trails for 10 years and I never thought of it that way. But it makes sense.
It took Yeah, it took me a while because like I wasn't there for the building of some of these trails, and I always follow the same routes when I go out there. I have my favorites, I guess you could say, and I found myself after riding there for 5, 6 years becoming disoriented. I thought, this is ridiculous. How is it that I don't know what I'm doing here? I should figure this out. So I started paying attention to the topography and how it was related, and using my compass.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like if you like for smartphone use, Trail Forks is an app that a lot of people use in cycling, that'll actually sort of pinpoint where you are in the trail systems. It's really no different than Strava or your GPS on Google Maps type thing. There's still some other trail systems that I will still have my phone with Trail Forks just because I can get turned around. Guelph Lake's not a problem for me now, but there's still other trail systems out there. So I find that to be pretty easy, even if I don't have to have it on my handlebars type thing, but if I can pull it out of my pack. In trail signage is something that we've been looking to address for a couple years. It was sort of on the docket for about 1.5 years ago, but when Julie was asking about when the trails are closed, that sort of threw a wrench into some of our plans. Actually, it threw a wrench into most of our plans that we had set for 2019, which was also improving signage. And the other effect of that is it forces us into rerouting some of our trails and rethinking some of our trails. So signage is going to get pushed back until we sort of get that settled out, because just from speaking to other trail users, even ones who are more familiar with them, getting turned around has been an issue for people.
Mhm.
So yeah, we recognize that, and like I say, we had hoped it would have been done 1 year ago, but with the amount of forestry work that was done out there by the GRCA, it was just it just happened.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for the question, or answering my question.
You're welcome. And if you're a member, and because the trails only opened yesterday, and we've been sort of focused on, beyond people focusing on how to just sort of, figure out new routines for everything else. Most of our efforts in the last couple of weeks have been sort of getting the trails open and all that sort of fun stuff. But once we get everything back up and running, typically we run club rides. Tuesdays has been typical, and some of the photos, I don't know if you caught some of the photos when we started today. Sometimes we get 20 people out. We don't know how we're going to address that and how we're going to hold club rides this year, because obviously we can't have groups of 20 people coming out. So how we're going to do it, make smaller rides, who knows? But that's usually a good way in the past of getting used to the trails, is if you're a member, you would get notification through the one app that we use of club rides. So you get a chance to, socialize with other people, but also just sort of, ride through. And we try and set up the club rides. Like sometimes if there's especially when it's a large group, there's always, the people who are, they're faster riders, or they like to ride fast. And then other people who are, looking to take a little bit more of a easy pace through the trails. So a lot of times we'll even do it that way, because it's not really fun to, if you're the slow rider in a fast pack.
I've been that, and I totally have been that last year. I didn't think I would be as behind as I was, and I wouldn't say that I'm not fit. I'm very fit, but I joined really mid-season, and so they had already been seasoned riders, and I was just how work had fallen. Like that was the only time I could join, so I could see how you can. Like it's very discouraging, to say the least, to be the slow one when you didn't really anticipate that.
Yeah, and we usually try and run the the leave no rider behind thing. Like we don't want to drop anybody. And I know, because I'm not a fast rider, and a lot of times you're like, is the pace fine? And you never really want to put your hand up and say, yeah, can we slow it down a little bit? Like that's hard to do. So yeah, I mean, it's again, when we're big enough to break into multiple groups, we like to have a slower group if we can.
Yeah.
You can also, if you're a GORBA member, using the Sorry, Don, what's the app called we use for the
Team
declaring the ride?
pages. Team pages.
That's how long it's been since I used it. If you are a GORBA member, you can post a ride on team pages. And you can say your intent. I'm going out at this time for a slow ride. The point is to discover the trails, take my time, stop, look around, and you'll get people who will join you because they're looking for that too.
Okay.
That's another way to look at it, that you can invite other people to join you on a discovery ride. Say, I'm going out at this time, planning to go slow, look at the trails. Because there are a lot of people who I've talked to who said they don't sign up for the rides because they feel as you do that they don't want to get into riding with a group of people who have a goal that's different than their own. They don't want to be, as Don said, the person to put up the hand and say, hey, can we slow down? I'd like to do something different than race through here. So if you are a member and you're on team pages, there are a lot of people who would sign up for that, saying, oh, somebody of like mind who wants to go out there and just look around the trails. But we'll also keep that in mind. We'll also post group rides or make announcements on our club page to say that for people who are interested and want to take their time, I'll make sure that I post rides like that this season when we get into doing group stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for saying that. I asked all the questions prior, but then and I showed up and willingness to learn, and then all of a sudden this happened, and you being the last rider and the instructor staying with you, but his group is so far ahead. It's just you're just go on. I'll get myself home and stuff like that, because it's not fun for either or, because he's probably oh shit, my people are in front of me and I can't get there because I have to stay with leave no man behind, and I don't want to be that person. So that's good that you're thinking of little things like that, because definitely is about inclusion at the end of the day too.
Well, and personally, if I'm if I'm the person at the end, we call them the sweeper on group rides, especially with kids. Kids have such a wide variety of abilities and physical fitness that when we go out for kids rides, there has to be a person at the front and a person at the back, which we call the sweeper. But personally, if I agree to be a sweeper, I'm quite happy with that. If you're with a group of people and you're with a GORBA member who says, I will sweep, I'll be at the back, don't think that they're waiting for you and they're begrudging that, because that's part of a group mentality. That's part of group success, is to agree to fulfill your role and to hold your position in the group dynamic. So yeah, personally, if I'm in a group like that and I say I'm going to sweep and I'm with, there's just 3 of us or 2 of us at the back, I don't begrudge that at all, because that's part of riding. That's part of group riding. If you want to go as fast as you can, well, then go out on your own. It's kind of my mentality. If you're with a group, treat it like a group. Be respectful of the group. So
that's
please, don't feel that. Don't feel guilty, because if somebody's with you and they agreed to be with you and they're part of our group, then.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Troy.
Okay. Amanda, just keep in mind, we post these rides because we want other people to come out, and Travis is correct. We run all of our group rides, run a lead, somebody who knows the trails, and a sweep, somebody who doesn't mind hanging back if somebody is falling off the back a little bit or is not quite familiar with the bike. If we didn't want to do that, like Travis was saying, we'd go ride our own ride.
That's true.
But our whole idea of going out there, bringing people out there to the trails to show them what we have out there, and we want to go for a leisurely ride ourselves with a bunch of people.
That's awesome. Thank you for saying and showing that was just a different organization, and it was a learning experience. So it's nice to see. That's why I wanted to be a part of this call today, because that definitely scarred me a little bit, but it didn't scar me enough where I still participated and did really well in one of the Kelso, one of their rides that they did last year in September. I did really well, but it was just I was looking for that upkeep, and now to hear different versions for trail riding, that's just nice to know that there's other people that think about those things too. Thanks.
Yeah, it's and it's further to both Troy and Travis, the our trail rides aren't always at Guelph Lake. So typically we'd do a Tuesday night club, the primary club ride where everybody sort of comes out. But Twin Ponds, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Twin Ponds, Puselinch Lake, Puselinch Tract. That's at the bottom of Wellington Road 32, I think it is.
Yeah, it's just outside of Hespeler for
Yes.
those who are local.
It's by Bieber's new house.
That's right.
You know, that's a trail system there, which is more complicated to find your way around because it's not really, no club maintains that. It's just maintained by the people who sort of ride out there. And there's a lot of times, like, I know, you know, one of the guys who's been around the club since pretty much its inception, he'll call rides out there through the summer and he'll just say, like, I'm going out for an easy ride. So, you know, it's not like you're not going to, you know, you might still sweat, but he's still like, you know, there's still easy rides. And if, you know, you come to a stop and the person who comes at the end is huffing and puffing and can't speak to you, then the pace just slows down. And a lot of times, like through the ride, it's like, everybody comfortable with the pace? You want to go faster? You want to go slower? And I mean, I've been the president of the club for, I don't know, 3 years maybe, but I've been on the exec and been a member, I don't know, maybe 8 years or so. And the one thing, when I first started riding, I was in the same boat as you. Like, I was sort of like, can I keep up with a bunch of mountain bikers on these trails? But it's definitely more of a casual sort of approach to things. Definitely not a race-oriented club by any means. It's just more of a, you know, do you want to get out on the trails and have a good time with and chat with people you don't normally chat with type thing.
That's exciting. Thank you for saying all these things, because I definitely want to be a part of a group. It's just I haven't found that group yet. So this is like really nice way to have a great introduction towards what I can expect in the future.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Glad to be able to answer those questions for you. So does anybody have any, the 3 people on here, knowledge of who we are beyond, you know, that you've seen the Guelph Lake trails out there? Because I mean, the club itself has been around, I think, so we've been around since '92 and incorporated as a not-for-profit in 2000. I think that makes us the oldest continuously run mountain bike club in the province. I'm not aware of anybody else who's been around, you know, that long. And mountain biking as sort of an established thing. Like when I was younger and I started getting mountain biking, it was really just picking out any sort of hiking trail I could find along the Grand River. Like I grew up in Brantford, so if people walk down there, it's like, hey, I'm going to ride a bicycle on there. But the club's definitely been around for a long time. Sort of with the approach of, you know, to sort of nurture, sort of grow off-ride, you know, biking in the area, you know, advocating for which was how we got the ability to lease that property, or Guelph Lake property, from the GRCA. We are actually just finalizing negotiations to take on stewardship of property at the south end of the city. Got the final paperwork on my desk, so it's just really a matter of putting a signature to it and dropping it off at the city. So with our Guelph Lake property, so if that's our northern trails, the nice thing about those trails is they're fun if you want to ride fast, but they're also good if you're new to the sport, or if you want to bring somebody out with you who's new to the sport, or like, you know, could be children or somebody who's never ridden a mountain bike before and gets intimidated compared to riding on relatively smooth surfaces. So we'll still always have that in Guelph Lake, and there's probably around 23 kilometers out there. So you have that set, and then we're going to also be moving on our south property, which is going to be south of the Hermosa, sort of out Watson Roadway, Arkle, across from Starkey Hill, will be our more challenging technical trail system. So we're pretty excited this year about being able to do that, because now we're going to be able to sort of meet the needs of multiple groups of riders. Because that stuff in the south end, that is, some of that's very technical riding. So again, pretty excited about that. If anybody knows that area of town, it's part of the property. The hiking club is in the process of finalizing an agreement for part of that property as well. So it's going to be a sort of a shared mountain biking, hiking, you know, beside each other. And I think that's probably going to that'll pretty much double the amount of kilometers we have. I think there's probably around 20 or so kilometers of trails out there. So again, that's just if you drive out Watson Road, hit Arkle, hang a left, and sort of across just north of Starkey Hill Trails. So, you know, Amanda, when you're talking like, so what we sort of try and do as far as social rides, because again, we try to keep the club to be relatively social. Again, we'll figure out how we're going to do our primary club rides, which again have traditionally been Tuesday nights. And as both Troy and Travis saying, like there will be club rides or group rides that people will post themselves, say, hey, I want to go out and take a ride. Anybody who wants to join me. We also have traditionally tried, you know, in the last few years, have tried to hold what we call our fall epic, which is a 6-hour ride on a set trail at a Guelph Lake. What we've done is sort of, you know, everybody sort of comes up, sets up. It's either solo, teamed. It's not really a race. It's like a poker run. So every time you complete a lap, you get a card, and you know, whoever makes the best poker hand wins. We do it that way versus just being a speed event. You know, we've had prizes in the past. I can't guarantee we'll have prizes in the future for that type of stuff, but really it's just about getting out with a bunch of people, and then we have a barbecue afterwards. We've also done winter, like a winter social ride over the last couple of years. So we based it out of the nature center at Guelph Lake, and really just an excuse to get out of the house in the wintertime on your fat bike. You know, we have hot chocolate and chili, so it's just a pretty sort of chill event if you're a person who does get a little bit cabin fever during winter. The other stuff that we try and do is sort of supporting, you know, some cycling causes or some other just causes around town. So this is our first year with 2Rivers. So the idea was that, you know, we would take people out for a bit of a tour of the lake to, you know, help people familiarize themselves with the lake and meet some of the club members. The Love Your Bike Festival, which is traditionally held in June, and it sort of falls in with Bike Month. We've supported that and did the same sort of thing as we would meet at, I don't know, the church is like 2 blocks from my house. I think it's Norfolk Church at Suffolk and Norfolk. Same sort of thing, lead people up to the trails, get people familiar with it, and just a sort of like a more of a, hey, everybody, let's sort of let's love our bikes sort of weekend. Is kind of fun. It's pretty chill and easy going. We've also lead the rides for Hillside over the last probably 5 years. So Hillside really has tried to make a push of getting people to ride their bikes out there versus driving, or you know, they also do the school bus thing, but they also, again, they have like a paddock out there. So our club has been bringing those folks back at 11 o'clock at night over the past, you know, like I say, I think it's probably been 5 years. And Run for the Cure, we also help out with Run for the Cure in September. We basically just ride along the runners, and just in case anybody needs any sort of medical assistance. We're not there to provide the medical assistance per se, although many of us are trained in first aid, but we're definitely there to sort of help people out and to, you know, help direct, you know, any responders that have been there. And luckily we haven't had to actually do any of that. You know, nobody's been hurt, you know, that we've seen. But again, it's just some of the stuff it's a pretty easy thing for the club to do, you know, give back a little bit to the community. And then also last year, they sort of started doing the bike rodeo again. If anybody's old enough to remember bike rodeos, I am, when I was in grade school. The police held one last year at Exhibition Park, which I think was the first time in a long time. So again, we went and supported that and had some little obstacles and stuff. So the kids would go into Exhibition Arena, do some lessons and some, you know, learn some road or rules of the road, which in safety items when you're on your bicycle, and then they come out and we'd sort of run them through an obstacle course, which I think a lot of the kids had fun with, stuff that they've never done before. Because again, you know, most of us when you start off cycling, it's on a pretty flat, smooth surface. So that was a lot of fun. And then Travis itself is also, you know, last year started doing some sort of clinics for some for kids. So you know, if you're a club member and you have a young, you know, children who want to get involved in mountain biking or just biking period, doesn't even have to necessarily be mountain biking, although Travis was taking them through trails and teaching them some of the skills to ride your bike over, you know, some uneven terrain. And how many times did you get out? It's been actually 2 years now, hasn't it? You've been doing that, Travis?
Yeah, yeah. The big limitation with me is my work schedule, so trying to maintain the consistency. But yeah, the 2.5 years. It started with Dan and I, and of course, Troy and the guys did that. I've done that a number of times over the years, but last 2.5 years, I've been out with different groups of people doing kids rides. We had about 15 people out one night. So we had a number of. Usually, what happens with the kids rides is the family shows up. Mom, dad, and kids, or dad and kids, or mom and kids. Yeah, we had about 15 people one night out for a ride. That was a lot of fun. We definitely needed to employ the lead and the sweep in that group. Some strong kids and some little ones.
Yeah, and I think, and you helped out last year, and Troy and Morris and Dan over the last while have also the GRCA. They have a summer camp in July for kids camp, and there is an afternoon that the club would go out and the kids are involved in the GRC camp out of the nature center on Conservation Road, take them out and teach them some things about, riding a bike through the woods and all that sort of fun stuff.
That's right.
Did anybody else have any other questions, any thoughts, or any other information on the club?
Just out of curiosity, how much does something like this cost to be a part of?
$35 for the year. And I think we raised it from $30 a couple years ago because we went to electronic system, and they take their share. But it's around $35. $35 now for the primary member, $25 for if you're a family. So your additional family members are $25. And most of that, I think our insurance costs per person has typically been around anywhere from $15 to $20. It depends on every year, depending on what the insurance market's like. So a good chunk of that goes to covering insurance, because with our agreement with the GRCA, we have to carry a certain amount of insurance, and yeah, that's where most of it gets eaten up. And then the rest of it sort of is held over. We use that, when we need supplies. Tools are the biggest supply. We've sort of gone through, our tools that we've had, we haven't had a big tool purchase for a while. So, but yeah, $35, which is probably on the low end compared to some of the other clubs that I can think of, or it's at least at the, at the same level, if not lower.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glennie or Julie, any questions from you? Did I think you're on mute? I didn't mute you, did I?
No, you've answered everything for me. Thank you.
And
Actually, I want to ask one thing, just because I know that there's also the Speed River gravel grinders. So is there ever overlap between what they do and you guys do ever, or?
not really. I mean, so the gravel grinding thing is, it's, the popularity's gotten huge over the last couple of years. And I know I've been taking advantage of my gravel bike this year because of all the trails being closed. I was out doing a loop with a friend yesterday in Brantford area, there's a lot of good loops you can stitch together there because of all the rail lines that used to go through that city. But so Speed River Gravel Club, they might cross through some of our trails. Just like there's other clubs, there's a women's only mountain bike club called the Wild Betties. Sometimes they meet up to ride through our trails, but there's no affiliation. Although one of our exec members is also an exec member with the Wild Betties.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that answers it.
Yeah,
and Speed River, I mean, Travis, you've done some rides with the gravel folks, haven't you?
Yeah. I've gone out twice with Taylor, the guy who organizes the gravel grinders. They were working towards a membership base similar to the Speed River Cycling Club, so they were going to be a proper club where you pay a membership fee, and then they would have insurance and that kind of thing as well. But just with my work schedule, I kept missing all the rides, so I didn't join up properly. But they are a separate group. And to answer your question about overlapping more directly, some of our participants are in both groups, so you might see some of the same faces. But like we're not a joint club where if you join one, you're automatically into the other one. The organizations are different, structure, insurance, and all of that. But it's certainly a number of our participants join that group as well. Taylor, the guy who runs it at Speed River, I know him quite well. So I have been out for rides. I went out to their year-end finale last year. It is a lot of fun. And Taylor's really good at organizing rides for figuring out where there are roads without very much traffic, which I don't like riding on the road because of car traffic. So if you get to know some of the routes around here where there's a well-maintained gravel road, but not as many cars, it is enjoyable.
Somehow he always figures out how to make the trail end near a brewery as well.
Yeah, it's a talent.
But yeah, I guess the biggest difference is they go further, like further out of the city. Like they'll go to other towns and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, most of the people that do that are experienced riders.
Right.
So they either ride, they either do like long road rides or they're into touring and bike packing. So most of the people that go on those rides are more experienced. But if it was something you were interested in, we could get you Taylor's contact information. He is very interested in introducing people to the sport. And if he had a group of people that were interested, he'd be quite happy in hosting an introduction. He did do a tour around Guelph one time where they rode 40 kilometers without leaving the city limits.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was all sections of
on trails or just
so on trails, but easy trails. So not the kind of trails you need a mountain bike for, but the kind of trail where you can ride it on a general bike, a hybrid or something like that.
right.
So gravel roads, pathways, just within the city, but not mountain biking.
Mm-hmm.
But 40 kilometers. He wanted to show just how much could be done without leaving the city.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
think, yeah, because I've stitched together just at around 25 kilometers. I live downtown, and stitching together 25 kilometers going into the south end of the city, and it's a mix of gravel, a little bit of dirt, some roads, but not a lot of roads, and the roads you're on aren't overly busy for most part. So I mean, those are the trails out there, and stuff like that you can do on a mountain bike, you can do on a gravel bike, and you could. I'm not sure you'd want to do it on a road bike, but a casual bike. This stuff it's definitely there. You can spend a little bit of time on Google and between some of the different various social feeds that people chat about these things. So Guelph's a pretty good spot for cycling, and again, not hardcore biking, but of all different types of surfaces you might want to ride. And for mountain biking specifically, the one thing I really enjoy about living in the city is how quickly I can, if I want to put my bike in my car, how fast I can get to places. So Amanda mentioned cycling at Kelso. I don't know what's Kelso, 30 minutes away by car, 25 minutes away by car. There's the trail system north of Kelso, like around across the Mohawk Raceway. There's Twin Ponds south of us, which is, again, you can get lost in there. So when I was mentioning trail forks, if you haven't ridden that trail system, you want to have trail forks on your smartphone because you will get turned around in that forest. And then there's the Hydro Cut, which is the Kitchener or Waterloo Cycling Club organizes on the west side of Kitchener. If you know where Iron Needles Boulevard is, with the boardwalk, sort of big shopping area, it's behind that. So I mean, there's a lot of mountain biking around here, and there's a lot of road biking, and there's a lot of gravel biking. Like it is a pretty fantastic area to live in for cycling infrastructure.
Yeah, and it is nice how there are a lot of trails, like especially along the river too, to get to the Guelph Lake. You could just follow the trails along the river, the downtown trail from downtown, and then there's the Speed River Trail that goes right there.
Yes, yeah, and I don't know how long. It's probably 4 or 5 years ago. The paved section from downtown, like yeah, basically from downtown Hermosa out to Speedville. That was paved probably 4 or 5 years ago. I think, Travis, that sound about right? Maybe a bit longer.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right.
And that opened things up quite nicely. And so the Rotary Club, like I don't know which one. I think there's 4 Rotary clubs in town. So the rec trail from Woodlawn to Victoria, like the crushed gravel, when it hits Victoria and sort of where our trails start, they actually have plans of continuing that rec trail all the way out to the dam. So Julie was asking, you're mentioning how there's a couple muddy spots. That's one of the muddy areas as well when you sort of stay close to the river, and it's like a double width sort of path. They want to sort of drive again, continue the rec trail straight out so we hit the dam. So for casual riders, it'll open things up a little bit, so they'll be skirting along our trails, but it'll definitely make for a bit of a longer ride that you could actually do through the city. And the city has a master cycling plan that I've been involved in a couple of meetings with City Hall about how they want to sort of change that, update that, so just like other municipalities are constantly working on ways to improve cycling infrastructure in their municipalities. Guelph's doing the same thing, so that would help, I think, to create, just to extend what we already have into something better. Anything else?
Yeah, I think we're hitting close to time as well. At 12 p.m. But if no one has other questions, I was just going to talk a bit more about the festival,
Sure.
the 2Rivers Festival. So yeah, I just want to give a huge thank you to both of you guys for taking the time out of your day and organizing this great event for us to learn more about GORBA. And then also, I guess most of you here already know, but 2Rivers Festival is all about celebrating the Speed and Hermosa rivers, and it involves numerous community organizations who have put out the time to participate and show people their passion for the rivers. And so this year our festival sponsor was the Guelph Outdoor School, and so just a big thank you to them as well, because without their support it would have been difficult to run this festival, and then as well as all the numerous other advertisers we had to help us with the festival. And we are halfway through with it, so there is still another month of more events that you could participate in. So if you just look at the festival guide, you'll see all of those, and there is a big one. So originally we had planned to do like a song competition that was going to be outdoors, but it doesn't sound like that will be happening anymore because of what's going on and no gatherings. But instead there is going to be an award-winning by a Guelph artist too, like who created a movie about the rivers, and that is going to be showcased at the end. So definitely, if you're free that day, it would be great if everyone showed up to that as well. And then just the last thing I was going to say is that we're always looking for more photos for the festival to put up on the website and showcase on our next year's festival guide. So if any of you go out and take photos related to any of the things that people in the events have been talking about, then just use the 2Rivers photo hashtag or tag at 2Rivers Festival, and then so we could see those pictures. And yeah, that was all I want to say. so you guys can give your closing remarks if that was all.
No, thanks for, I figured it's going to be a small group today.
Mhm.
Talking about bikes is fun, but riding bikes is funner. But anybody, if anyone has any other questions, I mean, they can feel free to email myself, Travis. He's our, like I say, he's our corporate liaison. Troy Burt, who's also on here. He's been with the club. He's our treasurer. He's been with the club longer than I have. But I mean, all of our contact information is on GORBA's website. You don't, and to anybody who's wondering, you don't have to be a member to ride our trails out of Guelph Lake. We always appreciate when people join because it does help to cover insurance costs and tools and supplies, like Travis mentioned, boardwalks that we're looking at building. But yeah, anything you want to go for, information wise, yeah, you go there. If you want to become a member, it's all online through that avenue. Also Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that sort of fun stuff. The only thing you don't get access to if you're not a member is you don't get access to the team pages feed, which is where we actually do our organized club rides. And that's pretty much it for me, I think.
That's good, Don. That wraps it up, I think.